Any Day Now, a film by Travis Fiennes, starring Alan Cummings and Garrett Dillahunt. It also stars Isaac Leva, who's not featured here, but he plays a child with Down syndrome. And this is a great movie, but I kind of don't ever want to actually watch this again. Alan Cummings is doing a fantastic job as Rudy, and Garrett Dillahunt is doing a really good job as Paul, but the movie's just really not fun to watch. Like, and it's rough because like it's a really fun movie in the first half. Like when they meet, it's funny. Alan Cummings is doing a great job comedically, especially in the beginning of the movie, and then he really holds this film together towards the middle and end in a more dramatic role. It really is well acted, and I don't know, man, this is not fun to watch. So the movie is about a somewhat recently divorced Paul going to a drag bar and meeting Rudy, who is one of the drag queens doing a performance. And their meeting together is pretty funny. And we end up following Rudy back to his apartment where he has a very loud, noisy neighbor who does have a child. And this child is Marco, played by Isaac Leva. And again, he's doing a fantastic job in this role, both playing the very quiet, very socially awkward and inept child with Down syndrome, and also later when he kind of comes out of his shell and the character becomes a little bit more well-rounded and able to communicate better with people. Again, doing a fantastic job here. So we follow Marco back to his apartment. He kind of gets into an argument with Marco's mother, and in the morning he realizes that Marco is just by himself, and Marco's mother is gone. Marco's mother has been arrested, and he is taken into child services. Later in the movie, child services loses the child. Marco runs away from home and from his new foster home, and is looking for his place to live, where he lives with his mother, and gets kind of lost. But Rudy and Paul happen to find him on the street when they're driving home and pick him up and take him back, and Rudy stays with him for a time. They decide to adopt this child. Rudy decides he's going to take care of him because he needs it, and he doesn't want to see him go to the foster system, and it really is a nice story, right? This is a man who has no obligation to this child, no real reason to take care of him, and is ready to be homeless on his own. Like we see earlier in the film that he's struggling to pay his own rent, but he doesn't want to see this kid lost in the foster system. And this is 1979, so they really didn't care about this kid. Like they were not going to help him at all. The social service lady was incredibly rude when she was there and hostile towards Marco. So it's good. He wants to help this kid, and him and Paul have only been together for like 2 dates. And they're gonna try to take care of this kid, and they end up moving in together. Paul and Rudy move in together, and then Marco joins them after a court hearing. But because they're gay, and this is 1979, they have to hide and pretend that they're not. They pretend that they're cousins, and this is kind of weird, right? Like, is it really worse for the kid to be with a gay couple than it is to be in foster care? Like, what are we even doing here? And that's kind of the point of this movie, right? It's going to be about the immense homophobia that was and still is part of the legal system, especially when it comes to children and foster parents and just parenting in general. They're always, it's always a problem when the gays are involved, right? They can't get a break. But they managed to temporarily adopt Marco by the mother giving them a signed statement saying that she's putting Rudy in charge, and they lie about being cousins to kind of circumvent the homophobia in the court system. And this works for a while, for about, I think it's 6 or 7 months, they said. He's living with them, and he's in school, he's, becoming more social, he's eating better, he's doing better, he's happy. That the boy is happy. Marco is a happy child here with Rudy and Paul, and he has no problems, and he's flourishing as a child with Down syndrome in this environment. But that's not good enough, because it never is, right? So the courts find out that, or the police are notified that they have this child and that Paul and Rudy are gay. Rudy ends up getting arrested, which when watching the movie I was a little confused, but it is 1979. They probably just arrested him for being gay. He ends up in jail. They take Marco away, and this is kind of where the movie, takes a turn from more dramedy. Honestly, like it's pretty funny in the first half of the movie. There is some seriousness to it. There's some weight to it, but for the most part, it's actually kind of funny, right? At this point, it kind of stops being funny. Like, this is a hard cut to it. This is not a joke anymore. There is no more comedy from this point on, really. And it gets pretty serious, and then it gets very serious very quickly. We see them fight for Marco and, to reclaim this child that they have been raising for months now, who is now again in foster care and not being taken care of properly, not being educated or nurtured in any real way, and they're not being allowed to see him or communicate with him. But eventually they go to court and their case is heard, and it's, they're denied. They're denied they're denied access to Marco again. They are told that they cannot have him back, that this is not appropriate for him to be with them. Because they're gay. That's the only reason. They speak with child psychiatrists, they speak with the teacher, they speak with friends of Paul and Rudy. They do, and everyone agrees. They are good parents taking care of this child that realistically, and Paul says himself, that no one in foster care is ever going to adopt this child, right? A child with Down syndrome is a ton of work, and again, 1979 here. Most people are not prepared for that now. They were definitely not prepared for that then. That child was never going to be adopted. But they wanted to adopt him. They were taking care of him. And he was doing incredibly well in that environment. But that's not good enough because they're gay. And that's the problem. We can't possibly have the gays teaching children, right? That's the propaganda involved. We could never do that. So instead, they leave this child in foster care. And they fight to get a second hearing here. And they go to court prepared with a new lawyer, and they're going to do their best. And before the case is even heard, it's full stopped. The mother comes, the police give the mother a plea bargain or a parole deal. They will give her early parole under the condition that she reclaims Marco from Rudy and Paul. And because she's the mother, and this, it kind of is what it is, because she's the mother, she gets, the court's going to give it to her, and that's exactly what happens. And she gets Marco back, and they lost a second time. And at this point, the movie's been, this is all in the last, 20 minutes of this movie. So the way the movie builds is, there's going to be a happy ending, and then you get hit with the, no, we see all this information, we see all this irrefutable proof that this child is being taken care of and is in the best possible environment, but we're still going to tell you no because you're gay, and that's not allowed. So they lose again. And but there's still time left, right? There's still time left in this movie, so we go to court a second time, and immediately, no, you lost again. We're giving the child to the mother, you're out. Done. But there's still time left, right? There's still time for this to spin around, and we could get that happy ending. But no. Marco's mother clearly does not care about that child at all, and sends him out to the hallway so that she can sleep with Guy, and he ends up running away because that's not where he wants to be. He wants to be with Paul and Rudy, and he gets lost. And then he's lost for 3 days, and then he dies, alone and scared under a bridge, trying to find his way home. And that's the end of the movie. There's no good outcome. There's no positive takeaway here. He's dead. The kid died. And it's really sad. It's honestly a terrible ending to this movie. I don't really want to watch this again. This was a great movie. But I don't see myself watching this again because I don't need a happy ending, but like, that's the opposite of a happy ending. That was a bad ending. That was a horrifying ending. This child did nothing wrong. These people did nothing wrong. In fact, I would say that they did more than most people ever would. Like, a week into their relationship, and they see this child that needs help, and they adopt him. And they make it work. Like, what more could you possibly want from adults in this kind of situation? They had no reason to be involved in this. They weren't even a point in their relationship where adopting a child was a realistic thing to do. But they did it anyway to help this child. And he was successful. He was doing good in school. He was social. He was happy. Like, what do you want? And then to give the child back to the mother, not even give the child back to the mother, to go so far as to let the mother free from jail just because you'd rather this child be with a single mother who does not care, who is addicted to drugs, who is putting him in bad situations, who is clearly not fit. You let her out of jail just to take this child because that is a better situation in your mind than him being with two gay parents. And now the kid's dead. And that's it. Really not a fun movie. Probably one of the best movies I've watched this year. There's straight through. It starts really funny. It's paced really well. The acting is great. Everything about this movie was fantastic. But I can't imagine myself wanting to watch that ending again. It's just... It's a terrible thing, and like, what do you do? Right? Like, everyone involved let this child down because it was more important to them to defend their homophobia than it was to actually look at what was best for this child. Great movie. I recommend watching it. I will say that. I do highly recommend watching the movie, but I don't see myself ever actually watching this again. Anyway, thanks for watching. Bye.